So you've probably heard the term hammer-ons and pull-offs, and chances are, if you're a beginner, you're wondering what the heck is a hammer-on and what is a pull-off? Well, they're the same thing, but they go in opposite directions. What I mean by that, now if I was to take any open string, for example, let's do the D string. And I was going to pick this note, but I want to add another note in there. How am I going to do it? Well, you can do it with what's called a hammer-on. So I'm going to pick the open D and then come down on the second fret of the D string. Now I'm only picking once, and this is known as a hammer-on. Now, when people start out, this happens a lot. The note stops. The right way to go about this is when you're doing any kind of hammer-on is you want to come down and fret it like you would, but you don't want to stop, because when you stop your finger and then push, you're going to kill the vibration. So you're going to come down strong and immediately squeeze it so you can let that note ring out. But if you pay close attention, I'm only picking it once. Now, if you're wondering, what's a pull-off? Well, let's look at it from the opposite perspective. If I start right here on the second fret, I pick that note on the D string, and I pull off to the open string. It's as simple as that. So a good way to think of it is if you have a guitar in your hands and you're looking down at the neck, hammer-on, you are going from your left to your right. So all different kinds of hammer-ons. Now pull-off, you're going to go from your right to your left. So doesn't sound very good what I just did there, but it's just to demonstrate that any of those movements are a pull-off. Now, with anything, when you're first starting out, anything can be turned into an exercise. And what I mean by that, if you want to get better at hammer-ons and pull-offs, well, sit here, and this exercise, it's so simple, you can do it, when you're watching TV, to where you not even really have to pay attention. But, for example, what I'm going to do is I'll stay constant on the second fret here of the D string. I'll pick one time. And see, I'm not even picking, but the note's still coming out. That's because I'm coming down with force. And you can sit there and practice, and if you do it, you're going to start to develop some hand strength. And it's so simple. You sit here, you can watch TV, eat a sandwich, do whatever you want. Now you can do it with all of your fingers, and I would encourage you to get the feel down for each one of your fingers. So. Now I'm doing my second finger. Third finger. And pinky. Now, when you first set out to do this, if you've never done it before, it is going to be a little bit challenging. And it might be a little bit frustrating, but I encourage you, just keep at it and keep doing it, because the more you do anything, the better it's going to get. And that's what a lot of people think when you start off learning guitar. One of the biggest questions that most people have is, am I ever going to be able to do this? Are my hands ever going to work the way I want them to? And the answer is yes. And what you're going through, everybody goes through that when you learn to play guitar. But to extend this exercise even further, I would encourage you to start working on different choices of fingers. So now I'm going to start on the 5th fret. And with this hammer-on, I'm going to go, still on the D string, I'll go 5, 6 with my first and second finger. Now, when you practice it this way, this is more of a more practical way on how you're going to use these, whether it be in a song or in a phrase. Down here, when we're doing it down here, this is mostly just to get the feel of it and the technique down. But when we come up here, just practice it. When you get comfortable with that, move on with your first and third finger. After that, your first and fourth finger. So both of those approaches are two different exercises completely. To extend it even further, to keep going, make it even more of an exercise, you can take what you just did with all of your fingers and do them on different strings, so you can get used to the consistency and the feel of each string. How I would approach that is maybe start on the low E and go. After I do that, first and third finger. You know, and when doing it, when you're practicing, I would spend, anywhere between 15 and 20 seconds on each string. But for the sake of this lesson, I'm just going to accelerate and speed it up a little bit. Now, if you do that, first and fourth finger. Now this one, it's going to take a little while to develop some hand strength, especially in this pinky finger. It's always the last one. It seems it's always the last finger to come full circle as far as getting your hand strong. But this is a good exercise to develop the strength and get your pinky used to making these types of motions. And so on and so forth. And there's a lot of different combinations you can use. I would encourage you to come up with your own. And any of these exercises, whenever you learn an exercise, change it somehow and expand on it. Make it your own to where it's unique and to where you can really get the most out of it. So my biggest piece of advice is to take all three of these particular exercises and keep practicing, and eventually it'll become second nature and you can start adding it to your own playing.